Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Weekly Walk. I'm your host Joshua Ingram. It is Tuesday, July 23rd, year of our Lord 2024, and this is episode number 108. I don't know if I have enough to say, or even if I have coherent thoughts on this particular subject. To be able to include it on the podcast, but it's something I've been thinking about the last day or two, and I don't have, like I say, a linear, coherent thought process on it. I just kind of have several random ideas, so I don't even know how to connect them all. So I'm going to try, but and it may be something I've touched on a little bit in the past, but it's a relatively new concept to me, so it's just something that I've been thinking about here recently. And it's this false idea that I see some Christians promoting about Christian nationalism. And I think it's I don't know if it's the exact same thing or if it's tied in, but post-millennialism. And it's this idea that Christianity will conquer the world, basically, for the name of Christ. Like the Christian ethic, the Christian morality, the Christian ethos will grow and grow and grow until the whole world lies under Christian sway. It's the idea it's a false idea that America used to be a Christian nation. That's a false idea. Like, there are no Christian nations. There's nations with predominantly Christian people, and usually those nations are blessed because of that, and that's what America was. We were built upon Christian ethics, Judeo-Christian ethics, and that mindset, that morality dominated society, but we were never a Christian nation. The fact that the nation started as an act of rebellion against its rulers, a rebellion against the king, which ended up benefiting us in the sense of freedom, but that's an unbiblical act. The Bible specifically tells us to submit ourselves to authority, to submit to kings and rulers. We're never allowed to rebel. We're never allowed to foment revolution. That's not Christian behavior. And when Paul wrote that in the book of Romans, he was talking about the Roman Empire, a tyrannical empire, and Christians weren't allowed to rebel. They were supposed to submit, to live peaceably. And so it is with us. The fact that America started with rebellion, that's an unchristian act. So how can you say America's a Christian nation? It's not. It never was. It was filled with predominantly Christian people, but that doesn't mean the nation itself is Christian. There's no such thing. God is saving individuals. God is at work in individuals. And so again, there's no Christian nation. So the idea that we can Christianize the world, not just the nation, that the entire world will submit to Christianity, the rules, the ethics, the laws of Christianity, is nonsense. And it's a ignorantly optimistic view of society. Like, it's kind of blindly ignoring the fact that society is on a downward trajectory. It has this blind ignorance where it says, oh no, everything's going to get better. We're going to make things better. It's not reality, and it's not biblical. The Bible specifically says that the kingdoms of the world belong to Satan, and he gives them to whomever he wishes, and that the kings and the rulers of this world plot and plan against Christ, and that there's going to be a one world government that's an anti-Christ government, a totalitarian, authoritarian system. And morality is going to get worse and worse. Evil will wax worse and worse. I think I saw a quote from MacArthur the other day that said, we lose this battle. We win the war because eternally we win, but here on earth we lose. The Christian life is one of sacrifice and persecution and hardships. It's not one of victory. Now there is spiritual victory. The Christian life is one of spiritual victory as we grow and are internally we're sanctified, and we sin less and less, and we hate sin more and more in ourselves. But the world is under the sway of Satan. The world is blinded and is dark. It's the kingdom of darkness. There's a duality. There's a kingdom of Christ, which is a spiritual kingdom, which is growing as people are saved, more individuals are saved. But the external physical kingdom, the world, is one of darkness. It's a satanic kingdom, and it's going to get worse and worse. And so it's really weird to me that this Christian nationalism, post-mill view, and I don't know if they're exactly the same. Post-mill believes that Christianity will take over the world and set up a kingdom of Christianity, a physical kingdom of Christianity. And after we have that for 1,000 years, Christ will return. So they believe we, the saints, will create that kingdom. And then there will be a 1,000-year period of that kingdom, and then Christ will return. The opposite view of that, the premillennial, the correct view, is that Christ will return physically, and he will establish the kingdom. It's not something we do. We will suffer. We will be persecuted. We will endure hardships. We will forever be aliens and pilgrims. This world will never be ours until Christ returns. We lose until the King returns, and then we win. And so again, ours is a life of endurance, a life of hardships, a life of perseverance, while spiritually we grow and are sanctified and purified. But so it's just weird how they can, it just, again, it seems like this blind optimism, like they just willfully ignore what's the reality of the world. Like they're just willfully ignoring the corrupt, evil vileness of the world. I was just visiting with my mom and my grandma the other day, and my grandma's by no means a Christian, and she was just saying to me how shocking it is in her 80 years how much the world has changed, how much worse it's gotten. And I was explaining to my mom and grandma that, yeah, it's because we're at the end. This is the end. It's it looks like it's definitely the end of America, and I don't know if it's the end of the world. That's the Lord's business. But we're on the Titanic, and it's sinking. We struck the iceberg a long time ago, and we're at the very, very end of it. I was telling her, when you got people calling themselves cats, and in schools they're putting in litter boxes so children will feel comfortable, and they're forcing us to refer to them as theys and thems, and even made up words like see and they. It's like that kind of insanity being embraced by society is a clear indicator that it's over. We're done. There's no coming back from that kind of mental, there's not even words. And, I should have done a better job of pointing to Christ. At one point I did tell her to her ultimate, because it was kind of just I don't know how to describe it, a loose, kind of jovial conversation, and we were kind of just talking all over the place. We were talking about all sorts of different things, but at one point, she was like, why do you think it is the way it is? And I said, well, ultimately, it's because we have a society that's rejected God, and this is what you get when you reject God. But anyways, the fact that you can look around, and people who have lived through it, people who have lived 60, 70, 80 years, and have seen how bad things have gotten, they know for sure. Younger people who have just kind of been brought up in it and kind of numbed to it, I guess it's easier to see how they could be blind to it. But society is so perverse and so bad and so dark, and it's every day it's getting worse and worse and worse, to the point where absolutely mind-bending, shockingly wicked and evil things can be disclosed on television or in the media or whatever, and it just kind of goes in one ear and out the other, and that is a sign of how bad things are, is that we're just calloused to how wicked things are. But not only just looking around, but if you look at the geopolitical scheme, because I was thinking about it in terms of prophecy, and I believe the scriptures are pretty clear in talking about how there will be a one world government. And I've mentioned this numerous times, and I wish I could. I don't understand why people don't grasp the importance of this. They kind of just brush it off. But when you read the book of Daniel, there's specifically a geopolitical vision given in which Daniel sees beasts. He sees 4 beasts. And then an angel specifically tells him what those beasts represent. And he says those beasts are 4 kingdoms. So we know that in prophecy, a beast is a kingdom. And so when you have that in mind, when you come to the book of Revelation and you read in chapter 13 about there being a beast that causes the whole world to take a mark and to worship, you should be able to put 2 and 2 together and say, oh, a beast, it's talking about a kingdom. And when it says it causes the whole world, okay, it's a worldwide kingdom. So that should be basic common understanding in scripture, or in Christianity. People should know that and understand that. And then when you look at the world and you see politicians and world leaders in their own words, when they speak about it from the podium, when they speak about it at press conferences, when they write it in their books, and they talk about a new world order, and they talk about a world government, a unified world, that ought to cause everybody to go, whoa, that's exactly what the book of Revelation is talking about. Like, you ought to be able to put 2 and 2 together. And so I was just thinking the other day about how, you if you're looking at things objectively and just looking at the world, you cannot possibly think things are getting better. As a matter of fact, like I mentioned earlier, we're at the end of the end. It's over. It is done. Things are not going back to normal. People are just pretending post-COVID that everything's fine now. Everything's back to normal. We just need to get Trump in office and get the economy situated and get the border situated, and everything will be fine. No, it's not. It is not. We're in the end game. These people that talk about the New World Order, they're doing it. They're going forward with it. This is their goal. And yes, it can be delayed. And the Lord's timing, the Lord is sovereign over it all. He could delay it even further. But right now, they have publicly announced that their end goal is 2030. They want this totalitarian Antichrist society set up and established by 2030. And like I say, things can cause delays. At one point in time, years ago when I first started studying this, they were talking about the year 2000. That was their goal. Things happened. There were delays. They were unable to get done what they wanted to get done, and they pushed it back. And then there was talks of the 2020 or 2021, whatever it was. I think it was 2021 that they wanted to do it. And again, things didn't exactly work out, and they pushed the schedule back, and it's 2030. So I don't know exactly when this one world system is coming, but all I do know is that the politicians, the world leaders, the people in charge, the people that the Bible tells me are sold out to Satan, the ones that the Bible tells me that the God of this world, Lucifer, has given the kingdoms to, those people, the people pulling the strings with all the power, they are publicly declaring that they want to do this. So while there might be delays, their motive, their zeal, their desire, their goal doesn't change. They're set on a purpose. They're set on it. They're going to get it done, and the Bible tells us they're going to get it done. When, we don't know, but I do know that they're shooting for 2030 right now, and they've got plans, and that means destruction for this world. Because you look, okay, so when we look, what is the New World Order? Well, the New World Order is, first and foremost, an elimination of most of us. They've got the technology, they've got the machinery, they've got the robotics, where they can live, the elite, these rulers, can live comfortable, luxurious lifestyles without all the people. They can have manufacturing done with limited amounts of people. So they want to eliminate like 90% of us. And then the second goal, the rest of us will be servants, will be slave servants. It's a feudalistic society that they want. Like in the Renaissance days, where you had kings and landowners, and then you had servants, and that was it. And that's what they're looking for again. And their goal is to have an immoral society so that they can pacify the lusts of their slaves to keep them happy. Because they learned a long time ago, a happy slave is a good slave. And so if they can keep them drugged up and sexed up and whatever, and just give them their rations, they'll stay subservient. And that's the goal. Eliminate most of us, turn the rest into drugged up, sexually perverse slaves. That's the future. That is what this system will look like. And it's an antichrist system that's not only going to be totalitarian, but it's going to be antichrist. It's going to require worship. It's going to require everyone to bow down to, like in the book of Daniel, the statue of Nebuchadnezzar. That was a precursor. Bow down to this statue. Well, in the book of Revelation, we have the image of the beast. Bow down to this image, whatever that is. But it's going to be worship, and take this mark to so that you can participate in the economy, so that you can get your rations. That's all coming. That's not conspiracy theory. I wish people could understand that. This isn't just conjecture or just tinfoil hat wearing lunacy. Again, the Bible talks about a beast system. World leaders publicly talk about a world government. That's not conspiracy. They say it from their own lips. They've released documents. When you look into like the UN and NATO and all these different things, Club of Rome, Bilderberg, Trilateral, the Council on Foreign Relations, these are actual groups of world leaders that actually talk about world government, that talk about eliminating freedoms, that talk about population reduction. That's not conspiracy, it's reality, and they're doing it. They're doing it right in front of our eyes. And it's the fact that they're moving forward with their 2030 goal. They're not slowing down. They're not stopping. This is going to happen. Why do you think they're censoring speech? Do you think it's really, because disinformation is bad for you? No. It's because they want to shut down any opposition, any exposure to their plans. They want people brainwashed and doing what they say. They're pushing for World War III right now. They just had the 75th anniversary NATO meeting or whatever in Washington, D.C., where they're talking about World War III. They're talking about long-range missiles on the border of Russia. They just, and our propaganda machine keeps telling everybody Russia's the bad guy. Russia's the bad guy. We got to stop Russia. No, Russia's just trying to survive. NATO is trying to eliminate them. It's insane. And they're trying to force, it's kind of a small miracle that Russia hasn't bombed America yet, because of all the money, the weapons, everything we're giving to Ukraine. It's insane. In a normal, sane world, it would be said America's at war with Russia. It's our weapons, our money doing the fighting. That means it's us. We're just using Ukraine soldiers to do it. But anyways, that's neither here nor there. It's just insane. We are living in the last days. Don't know how long that'll last. And again, the Lord could delay this. The Lord's plans are his plans. We don't know what it is. He could do anything and set this back 100 years. But when you listen, all I know for sure is that the people in power, the satanic rulers of this world, are calling for a 2030 end date. And their end goal is population reduction, i.e. the murder of most of us, through whatever means, through pestilence, through famine, through an economic collapse, through nuclear war. Who knows what they got planned. But they want to kill most of us. And then slavery for the rest. And then spiritually, it's going to be an antichrist, immoral society where any remaining, most of us are going to die. That's the reality. If they are successful in their goal, and the Lord does not delay this, then most of us are going to die. Most of us are going to be persecuted. If you're a Christian, we're the enemy. That's who they're coming for. And you got to have your heart prepared for that. And it's just ignorant to have your mindset on, oh, no. We're going to win. We're going to take this world for Christ. We're going to conquer these evil people. No, you're not. That's not what the Bible says. It says we're going to be persecuted. It says we're going to be killed. It says we're going to be martyred. It says we're going to lose. And you have to have your heart prepared for that. It's spiritually dangerous to have a fake hope. Hope in a promise that's not a promise. They're believing in a false idea, this false belief system that things are going to get better, and they're not. You have to have your heart prepared that, your children, their generation is probably going to be the end. They're going to face extreme hardships, extreme persecutions. And many of us will probably live to see it as well. Again, 2030 is their end date. Now, like I said, in my lifetime, I heard them declare 2000. I heard them declare 2020. And they keep having to push it back for, I don't know, whatever reasons. Things aren't exactly the way they want them to roll this out. So maybe it gets pushed back again. Maybe it gets pushed back to 2050 or whatever. But it's coming. That's their goal. That's their drive. And that's not going to change. The end date might change, but they're not going to change their mindset. They're sold out to Satan. Satan is going to do this. It's prophesied. It will happen. And you gotta have your heart prepared for it. You need to train up your children to not love this world, so that when it's ripped away from them, they're okay. You gotta have them with prepared hearts, prepared to suffer for Christ's sake, to take a stand for righteousness' sake, to say no to this world and its system, and to be willing to suffer and die for that. I think the reason I talk about end time stuff so frequently, well, it's something I'm zealous about. I love thinking about. I love just trying to piece it all together, and it's been that way since I first got saved. The end times was heavily on my mind. It was probably the dominant subject of thought in my early faith. It might even be like if I were to catalog dominant thoughts throughout my 23 years in the faith, that's going to be one of the top three. It's always something I'm thinking about. I don't know where I was going with this. I had an idea, but so I'm thinking about end times figures, and I guess it branches off from thinking about Christian nationalism, my previous topic, just because eschatology plays a lot into that, and so then it kind of led into me thinking about this. And I get frustrated with all these ideas about Antichrist that people have, and like what that's going to look like, and it's hard to piece everything together, because there's prophecies about the end mixed throughout the entirety of the Bible, and there's several like metaphorical prophetic vision type figures given that you really don't have a clear answer on who or what it's talking about. I mentioned previously about the beast, and how in the book of Daniel, that's one of the ones we do have clarity on, because an angel actually explains to Daniel the vision. We don't always get that with prophecy. We don't always get an explanation. Sometimes there's just a prophecy and we're left to look at it and kind of ponder, well, what does that mean? And I think a lot of prophecies, you won't know exactly what it means until it happens. The disciples, they didn't understand the prophecies about Jesus's first coming. They didn't understand about his life, death, burial, and resurrection until it occurred. Once it was done, then the Holy Spirit opened their understanding, and they could look back at those prophecies and go, oh, that's what that was talking about. Then it made sense. And I think a lot of prophecies about the second coming of Jesus will be the same way. We kind of have this general idea, just like when you would read the scriptures about his first coming. If you were reading about, in Isaiah 53, how he was bruised for our iniquities, he was crushed for our sins. You would, if you hadn't seen the crucifixion yet, you would kind of have this general idea of a suffering servant, but this is why the disciples were so confused. You also had prophecies about him being a conquering king, and so you weren't exactly able to put that together. Well, how can he suffer, and be crushed and bruised, but also conquer and be the rod of iron and set up a nation? Like, it didn't make sense in their minds. And that's why even up until the resurrection of Jesus, they were still confused. They didn't understand. They were really perplexed by the death, because I thought the Messiah was going to be a conquering king. So what just happened? We were assured, we knew that Jesus was the Messiah, but now he's gone. How can this be? And then afterwards, revelation was given to him that there's a first coming of Jesus and a second coming of Jesus. And they didn't comprehend that until after the fact. And so I think it's that same way with a lot of these end time prophecies. Like, we won't have, you get this vague idea, but I don't think it's possible for us to nail it down exactly until it occurs. So in the meantime, we're left trying to figure it out, because it is important to try to figure it out. We don't want to be caught off guard. We don't want to be ignorant or deceived. We want to understand things to the best of our ability. And so we look at these things, and like I say, it's been a passion of mine. I've constantly thought about these end time scenarios, and then I got into the whole geopolitical conspiracy view, or train of thought, or I don't know what I'm trying to say. I guess I started looking at the world in the light of end time prophecies, and things became pretty clear to me, I think. Man, I feel like I'm rambling here. So anyways, what I wanted to do here, without all this jibber jabber here at the forefront, I wanted to look at end times characters and try to figure out who and what they are. And so, like I said, with the beast, we have clarity. The angel told us what a beast is. The angel told us that a beast is a government. A beast is a kingdom. And so Daniel had saw 4 beasts, and those were Babylon, Medo-Persia, Greece, and Rome. Now, Daniel also saw on one of the beasts, the 4th beast, which would be Rome, he saw 10 horns creep up on it. And then he saw a little horn come up in the midst of the 10 horns. And the little horn had eyes and spoke blasphemies, and it plucked out 3 of the other horns. And unfortunately, the angel doesn't exactly tell us what that is, so we're left to ponder, who is the little horn? What are the 10 horns, and who is the little horn? And I think when we look at history, we get clarity on that. So if a beast is a kingdom, what would a horn on the kingdom be? And to me, it's pretty clear that would be a region, like a sub-kingdom of the beast. And so when the Empire of Rome, because we know that 4th one was Rome, when Rome was conquered, when Rome collapsed, and we look back into history and look at the collapse of Rome, it divided into 10 kingdoms. So right when you see that, you go, oh, 10 kingdoms, 10 regions, 10 horns. That makes sense. Okay, that's what that prophecy meant. And then a little horn came up amongst those 10 regions. And those 10 regions are, what we know today as Europe. I don't know exactly what they were called when they first started. If it was France and Germany and England and Italy and, all those things. But there was 10 regions. And then a little horn come up amongst them. So we have a littler region, a smaller region, coming up in the midst of Europe. And it speaks blasphemies and plucks out 3 of those kingdoms. So again, when I look back in history, it becomes pretty clear what region, what power came into being and destroyed 3 of those 10 kingdoms. Rome, the Roman Catholic institution, which spoke blasphemies. If you just study the blasphemous titles, the blasphemous words of the Pope, referring to himself as the Vicar of Christ, saying that he is Jesus hidden behind a veil of flesh, calling himself the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords, referring to himself as Pontificus Maximus, and then saying that Mary is a mediator and that Mary is the Queen of Heaven. These are all blasphemous things that it says. So we have that identifier. And then when you look back at the history of the kingdoms that came out of the Roman Empire, there were 3 that refused to bow down to Rome. See, at that point in time, right around, I don't know the exact time, but in 325 or whatever, Constantine made Christianity the religion of Rome. And then when Rome collapsed, the Pope took the title of the Emperor of Rome, Pontificus Maximus, and declared himself the ruler, both temporally and spiritually. And because of the ignorance of people, because of the lack of ability to read and a lack of having access to the Bible, many people were just kind of forced to listen to what Pope said, listen to the Catholic institution. They didn't know the truth. And so the Pope was able to deceive and trick people into subjugation, into bowing down to him, to the point where he threatened kings and queens, I have the power to cast you into hell. When you die, I will send you to hell if you don't listen to me. And that is exactly why, when you look back at the Dark Ages, kingdoms and emperors fought for the Pope. They did what the Pope said. You go back and study. That's what the whole Dark Ages is about. The French wars with England and all that. You can go back and look at the way the Pope would use emperors and kings to persecute real Christians, like the I think they were called the Huguenots and the Wesleyan, not the Wesleyans, the Waldensians, and what was that other group? I can't remember, but the Catholic institution persecuted and martyred, some estimates say up to 50 million Bible-believing Christians. So there were pockets of believers all over Europe that refused to bow down to Pope, that recognized this guy's a deceiver. This is nonsense. This isn't Christianity. And they were hunted down and killed, and the Pope used kings and queens and rulers to do that because he claimed to have power over them. Like, if you don't come confess your sins to me, if I don't offer you forgiveness, if you don't do what I say, I have the power to cast you into hell. But there were 3 kingdoms at the beginning that refused to bow down. And I forget exactly what they're called. It's like the Visigoths and the... it's something with an O. It starts with an O. But you just do a study of the history of the early European nations, and you'll see these Visigoths, or whatever they were called. One starts with a V, one starts with an O, and I can't remember what the third one was. But there were 3 kingdoms that did not accept the authority of the Pope. And so what happened? The Pope used those 7 other kingdoms and his threatenings to attack and remove these 3 kingdoms. He plucked them out. So you had this little horn that spoke blasphemies that came up amongst the 10 horns, and he plucked out 3 of them. And that's exactly what happened in history. So I think it's pretty clear that the little horn of the book of Daniel is the Roman Catholic institution. So there we have 2 figures. We have the beast, which again, the angel clearly identifies beasts as kingdoms. We have the horns, which I think are pretty self-explanatory. They're regions. They're kingdoms within that original beast kingdom. And then you have the little horn, which is the Roman Catholic institution. So I think we're able to identify those end-time characters. Or those would actually be historical. I don't know why I'm calling them end-time. That's historical characters. That's not end-time characters. So then, I guess it kind of gets convoluted in your mind because of the connection between the book of Daniel and the book of Revelation. Like the same symbology, the same ideas used. One, the book of Daniel was historical. The book of Revelation is futuristic. Or current, present. So then let's fast forward. What other characters do we have in the eschatology picture? And in the book of Thessalonians, we have the man of sin, or the son of perdition. What exactly does that say? Okay, so it's 2 Thessalonians 2, and it's specifically talking about the day of Christ. I guess the Thessalonians back then were kind of in a panic, thinking that they had missed the day of Christ. And Paul's exhorting them, don't be deceived. The return of Christ, the day of Christ, won't come until these things happen. And he says there be a falling away, and the man of sin be revealed. And the man of sin exalts himself above God, sits himself in the throne of God, and proclaims himself to be God. And he, when we look around the world, who is this man of sin? Well, there's one person who exalts himself. I guess there's multiple. You got Buddha calling himself God, and you got, the Krishnas, and there's all sorts of false prophets. But there's one that stands head and shoulders above the rest. And everybody recognizes that. You intuitively know there's one person who stands above, who sits on a throne, and unbelievably, his throne has an upside-down cross on the back, a satanic symbol. But there's one guy who wears a Babylonian fish miter, that weird hat that the Pope wears. That's ancient Babylon. That's the Babylonian mystery religion. Their priests used to wear that same thing. And when you look at it from the top down, it's a fish mouth. And because it was an agricultural fishing god that they worshipped called Dagon, the Starbucks symbol uses that same thing. When you look at the Starbucks symbol, obviously showing that company is Illuminati owned, Illuminati controlled. But anyways, the Pope, sits on a throne, has people worship him, has kings and queens come and bow down to him and kiss his hand, and he exalts himself. He calls himself the King of Kings, the Lord of Lords. He calls himself God on earth. He's proclaimed to have immutability, that whatever he decrees from his throne is irrevocable, that he's somehow perfect in his sayings, and there's all these blasphemous titles, so that you can see he is the man of sin, the son of perdition. He's the one that exalts himself above all others. He's the one who sits in the throne of God, proclaiming himself to be God. That is popery. That is the Roman Catholic institution. So he has been revealed, and that scripture says the day of Christ won't come until he's revealed. So that means that he has been revealed. The son of the return of Christ could happen then. That has been fulfilled. We're then awaiting the return of Christ. Then you look at what is the great falling away, and the word there used is apostasy, which is not believing historical, orthodox, biblical Christianity. And I don't know if we've seen, because when you look around the world, there is a lot of apostasy. America is a land of apostasy. Everything from Mormonism to Jehovah's Witnesses to Joel Osteen to Joyce Meyer to Benny Hinn to Roman Catholicism to ecumenical movements to churches embracing homosexuality. There's a great falling away. So I think we could be in the process of seeing that. It seems like every couple years a new denomination accepts homosexuality and just goes full-blown antichrist. Just accepts all these immoral, wicked things, these apostate beliefs. So we could be in the midst of the great falling away right now. And something historically could have happened. I guess, Rome itself is the great apostate. So I'm not exactly sure what the great falling away is, but I think we're able to identify who the man of sin is, who the son of perdition is. And it's the same as the little horn. It's Roman Catholicism, but it's current Roman Catholicism, not historical. The little horn gave us the historical picture of what Rome would do, and the man of sin is showing us who the Pope is currently. All right, so then outside of that, we have, in the book of John, he mentions Antichrist, and that phrase just means opposed to Christ or substitute of Christ. And I don't know if there's one specific figure or if that's just a characteristic, because he says there's many antichrists. You've heard that Antichrist will come. He says, even now I tell you there are many antichrists. So is there one, the Antichrist? I don't know. It seems to imply so. But Antichrist just means in place of Christ. Anything that pretends to have a gospel, anything that pretends to be salvific, that's not Jesus Christ, would be Antichrist. And again, when you look at popery, if anything is going to be identified as the Antichrist, it's popery, the vicar of Christ. That when Pope calls himself that specifically means anti of Christ. The word vicar means substitute. And in Greek, substitute is anti. That's what the word anti means in the New Testament Bible. It means substitute. So when it says Antichrist, it means substitute of Christ. And the Pope calls himself the substitute of Christ. But he uses the Latin, vicar. That's what the substitute means in Latin. So he identifies himself as Antichrist. And again, all those blasphemous titles saying that he is Jesus Christ in the veil of flesh. Okay, that's an Antichrist statement. Also, the reason I hesitate to say it's definitely the Antichrist is because it says anybody who denies the Father and the Son, right, is Antichrist. I think it says something like that. So it seems like it's more of a general idea than a specific person. But again, if anybody is going to fulfill that in the greatest emphatical sense, it's popery. It's the Roman Catholic institution. So again, the little horn historical Roman Catholic institution, the emperor, the Empire of Rome, which is Vatican City today. That's the little horn. The man of sin is popery. The Antichrist is popery. So we're seeing a common theme here, that the enemy of the faith, the seed of Satan, is popery, is the Roman Catholic institution. Then we get into the figures within the book of Revelation, which are a little bit more confusing. First, we have beasts. There's two beasts in the book of Revelation. We can go back to Daniel and say, oh yeah, a beast is a government, a world empire, or a power, an empire. And we see in the book of Revelation that one of the beasts causes the whole world to worship him. So it's a worldwide empire, and it's what our politicians refer to as the New World Order, a unified global government. That's that beast system that's talked about in the book of Revelation. The second beast that causes everyone to worship the first beast, I'm not sure what that is. Is it America? Is it the UN? Is one beast the UN and the other NATO? I'm not sure. But it's another world power. It's another empire that's a subject of the first empire and causes the whole world to worship the first beast. And then you have a false prophet. So I'm not exactly sure what the false prophet is. It's somebody who causes worship of the beast. It's somebody who draws attention to this world empire. Could that be like the ruler, the head of this world empire, the Secretary General of the UN, some sort of political figure? I don't know. And then you have in Revelation 17, the woman that rides the beast. So somebody is in control. Somebody's on top of this world empire. Somebody is steering and directing this world empire. And out of all the end time figures that we've looked at, this one's the clearest. Because again, an angel gives us an explanation. We're given all these signs. It says this woman is decked out in purple and red. She's called Mystery Babylon. So she has ties in with the Babylonian mystery religion. She's decked out in gold and pearls. And then at the end it says she sits on seven hills. And the angel specifically tells us this woman is a city that sits on the 7 hills. Well, the Vatican City is called the city that sits on 7 hills. It's in the Catholic Encyclopedia. It even identifies that. It's in a region with 7 hills, and Vatican City is that city. So again, the woman that rides the beast is popery, is Catholicism. Same as the little horn, same as the man of sin, same as Antichrist. The woman is in control of this world empire. The Vatican, the Pope, is the power behind this world empire, this world system that our politicians are currently trying to set up. So is that all the figures? Yeah, I think that clarifies. So I guess the only one that I'm not really sure on is the second beast and the false prophet. Although, again, we know a beast is an empire, so we do have some clarity there. What that empire is, I don't know. And the false prophet, I'm not really sure on that one either, but yeah, I guess I don't really know what the point of this is. I guess I was just trying to think about it and trying to clarify these titles, these persons in my mind, trying to figure out who they were, identify them. So either I just made you really confused or I helped you think clearly about things, but appreciate you listening. Alright, that's all I got for you guys today. As always, I truly appreciate you listening. I love you, and Lord willing, we'll talk to you next time.